So here's a big question we see all the time. Can a foreigner actually study medicine in India? It seems like a simple question, right? But if you've ever tried to look it up, you've probably just found a whole lot of confusion and answers that don't quite add up. Well, today, we're going to cut right through all of that noise and give you the real story. All right, let's just get straight to the point. Can a non-Indian citizen get an MBBS degree in India? This is the question. But the thing is, the answer isn't a straightforward yes or no. Let's really dig into why that is. You know, if you ask most people, the answer you're going to hear is a quick, flat no. But honestly, that's not even close to the whole story. The reality is, well, it's a lot more nuanced and, frankly, a lot more interesting for anyone aspiring to be a doctor. So, this common no has basically created this whole myth. We'll call it the closed-door myth. But why? Why does almost everyone think it's impossible? Let's break down where this whole idea even comes from. Okay, so this myth didn't just pop up out of thin air. The thing is, India's medical system has a reputation for being incredibly tough, with some really stringent regulations. And its main focus, which makes perfect sense, is training doctors for its own massive population. So yeah, from the outside, it can totally look like this impenetrable fortress. All right, so if we want to get to the real answer, we've got to understand what's causing all this confusion in the first place. And it turns out, there are a few specific things that make the whole process seem super unclear for anyone outside of India. It really all comes down to this tangled mess of different issues. You've got this one single high-stakes exam you have to take. Then there's this really complex web of quota systems, strict rules about your previous schooling, and on top of it all, there's just not a lot of clear info out there for foreign applicants. It's kind of the perfect storm for misinformation to spread. Okay, so enough about the myth and the confusion. Let's talk about what's actually possible, because there is a real path to getting in, and we're going to walk through it step by step. This is the stuff you really need to know. Okay, first and foremost, you absolutely have to know about something called NEET. It stands for the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test. And here's the deal. It is the one and only entrance exam for medical school in India. I mean it. There are no workarounds, no other options. It is the single gateway. And this right here, this is probably the biggest source of the whole myth. The myth says NEET is only for Indian students. But the reality? Qualifying in NEET is mandatory for everybody. Seriously, that includes foreign nationals, non-resident Indians or NRIs, and overseas citizens of India, the OCIs. It's the one rule that applies to absolutely everyone. So what does this path actually look like in practice? Well, it's basically a 5-step process. First, you have to qualify in the NEET exam. Second, you meet all the academic requirements. Third, get your age and all your documents verified. Fourth, and this one's super important, you apply under the correct quota. And finally, you get your student visa. All right, let's zoom in on those academic requirements for a second because the details here really matter. So you need to have completed your high school. In India, they call it 10+2, or whatever your country's equivalent is. The core subjects are non-negotiable: physics, chemistry, and biology, plus English. You also need to have at least a 50% average across those science subjects. And here's a crucial final step. Your diploma needs to be officially certified as equivalent by the Association of Indian Universities. There's also an age requirement, but don't worry, this one's super simple. You just have to be at least 17 years old by December 31st of the year you apply. That's it. So you might be wondering, where do you even apply? How does this work? Well, for most international applicants, the main route is through special quotas in private medical colleges. You'll hear them called the NRI quota or the management quota. Think of this as the designated lane for foreign students. Okay, so we've established there's a path, but, and this is a big but, just because it exists doesn't mean it's a walk in the park. It's super important to be realistic about the challenges ahead. So let's talk about what you need to be prepared for. First off, the competition is absolutely brutal for a very, very small number of seats. Then, remember you're studying for the NEET exam, which is based entirely on the Indian high school curriculum. That could be way different from what you studied. Of course, there's also the cultural and maybe even language adjustments. And here's a really big one to keep in mind. Even after you graduate, you still have to pass another huge licensing exam before you can actually practice medicine in India. And we absolutely have to talk about the money. Just a heads up, the tuition fees for these NRI and management quota seats are, well, They're significantly higher than for the regular seats. We're not talking a small difference here. The financial commitment is a huge factor you've got to be ready for. So we've busted the myth, we've looked at the real path, and we've been honest about the challenges. What's the final verdict here? Let's wrap it all up. You know, the source material we looked at for this sums it up perfectly. It says the idea that a foreign national cannot study medicine and surgery in India is not accurate. So there you have it. It's a myth. So here's the bottom line. The path is tough, no doubt about it. It takes a ton of preparation, it's super competitive, and it costs a lot. But, and this is the most important part, the door is not closed. That path is open for anyone who's really ready to take it on. And really, that just leaves one last question, and this one's for you. Now that you know the real requirements, the serious challenges, and the amazing opportunity, the door is open. The question is, are you ready to walk through it?